Welcome to Continia Document Capture webinar. My name is Mikkel Reespool. I'm the Senior Product Specialist at Continia Software. Today we review how Document Capture selects the vendor and the template when receiving purchase invoices. In addition to viewing the selection process, we'll take a look at several of the different configuration options available in Document Capture, affecting the identification of the source ID. Before we get started, let's see what we have on today's menu. Our session today is based on our demo portal that is available to all partners. We'll be using NAV 2016 with Document Capture 406. Some columns and fact boxes have been adjusted to fit today's webinar. During the preparation of this webinar, the program code regarding identification of source ID was reviewed. In this regard, code unit 6085576 has been adjusted for a minor bug. The object can be retrieved via the download section in the partner portal after the webinar. I already made the basic setup of Document Capture and other areas within standard NAV. The most important subject is, of course, that we're going to see how Document Capture identifies the source ID and template. First we take a look at search texts that are located on the template. Then we turn to the identification template. And finally we shift gears and examine the identification fields and other parameters in the document category. As always, you will get a glimpse of some of the new features in the next version of Document Capture. If you have already worked with the registration of purchase invoices and other documents in Document Capture, you are probably familiar with the configuration of both document categories and templates. It is precisely with this setup that we start today's webinar. When a document is processed by the OCR engine and imported, Document Capture starts to identify the source ID that the document is to be associated with. This is done automatically by Document Capture through several search and identification functions. The first step of the selection process is handled by the search texts that are set up on the templates. Document Capture runs through all the templates to find the template with the best match. This is of course based on the full text content in the PDF. When a template is selected, the source ID that the template is associated with is automatically selected as the source ID for the document. If no valid source ID was found during search text, then the function that runs through all the vendors to find the source ID from the VAT number is started. This is handled by the ID template on the document category. Document Capture takes all VAT numbers on all vendors in NAV and then compares the entire content of the PDF to find a number on the document that matches one of the VAT numbers on the vendors. If the source ID has not yet been found, then the last identification function steps in. This is the well-known identification field that is set up in the document category. Document Capture begins counting points to find the most qualified vendor. The score, which is the number of points earned, is based on a comparison of the entire content of the PDF file and all vendors in NAV. For a vendor to be considered as the source ID, the score should be at least 15 points. The vendor with the highest score is selected and inserted on the document. To control the selection of the source ID, we can adjust various parameters such as filters, source exclusions, and the field default template. The menu item for adjusting source identification in Document Capture is located under Departments, Administration, Application Setup, Document Capture, Document Categories. Let's take a look at the template. The first step in the selection of source ID is based on search text. The panel General contains the options to control the selection of the template by looking for one or more text strings in the document. The template card offers two options to set up the search text: the field search text and the field number of search text. The field search text, also known as primary search text, may contain one search string consisting of several words. Example of search text could be credit memo or perhaps a specific project name. It is also possible to create multiple search text on the same template, for example both credit memo and a project name. With a single click on the field number of search text, a list opens that allows you to add more search text. But what actually happens when Document Capture runs through the search text on the template? When Document Capture analyzes the document to find a vendor, the first action taken is to select all the template where the field search text has a value. The selected templates are analyzed for any text in the template search text table. For each search text that fits the content of the document, 1 point is added to the score. This template will reach a score of maximum 3. After that, all templates with the field search text is empty are checked by the system. These templates are then analyzed for any text in the number of search text. As before, the templates earn 1 point for every search text that fit the content of the document. Just like the first template, this template is also able to reach a score of 3. The templates with values in the template search text must match on all the search text to be considered valid. If the template contains just one word that is not found in the document, the template is ignored. When all templates are processed, Document Capture chooses the template that has the higher score. That would be the template with the most search text that matches the document. Should several templates have earned the same score, like in this example, then the first template is selected, which, besides being the top scorer, also has a primary search text, which should be found in the document, of course. In this example, template 2 wins, as it has a primary search text. For the selection of templates to be correct, it may be necessary to combine several words, especially if the individual words are commonly found, for example, credit memo or freight. In order to ensure good recognition of search text, both the primary and common search texts are case insensitive. During the selection process, several special characters are ignored. These include the following characters: comma, full stop, space, minus, plus, colon, semicolon, forward slash, backslash, and star. Once a template has been found, the source ID that the template is associated with is automatically selected as a source ID for the document, and the template is then applied to the document. This means that it's actually possible to select another vendor than the one stated in the document. That may in some cases be an advantage. For example, if the vendor list contains several identical vendors, but only one vendor is used. To avoid choosing the wrong vendor, it is important that the search text on the template are accurate. Please note that search text only works on vendor-specific templates, not the master template. If no search text are set up on the template, or in the current stage of the process no valid source ID was found, then the next function runs through all vendors to find the source ID based on a single field, like the VAT number. This is handled by the ID template that is located on the document category. In the panel code units, the field after capture contains the name of the code unit that is run as the next identification step. For the document category purchase, the code unit with the name purchase document identification is used. The code unit has number 6085702. What this code unit does is actually pretty simple and quickly explained. First, the VAT number of the document is located. This is based on both the caption and the root property for the field. Then document capture takes all VAT numbers listed on the vendors using code unit 6085702 and compares them with the value found in the PDF file. The first vendor where the VAT number matches is then selected as a valid source ID. Finally, the default template for the vendor is applied to the document if a template exists for that specific vendor. If desired, the ID code unit and ID template are easily adjusted to use another field for identifying the vendor source ID. If a valid source ID is still not found, the last identification function takes action. This is the list of the well-known identification fields that are found on the document category. Now document capture starts counting points to find the most qualified vendor. The score, the number of points, is based on a comparison of the entire content of the PDF file and all vendors in NAV. For a vendor to be considered valid as a source ID, the score must be at least 15 points. The vendor with the highest score is then selected and inserted into the document. The values in the list of identification fields are very easily adjusted, both which fields to look for that form the basis for the score, and also the value, also called rating, of the individual fields. Most fields are set to a rating of 1. If, for example, the company name Continia is recognized, this field counts as 8 points, since there are 8 characters in Continia. The value of the field VAT number is set to 5, which means that if the VAT number is recognized, this field counts 5 times the number of characters recognized. If the VAT number has 8 characters, the score is calculated to 40 points, which in itself is enough to be considered as a valid source ID. If there are multiple vendors that have a score of at least 15 points, then the vendor with the higher score is selected. Finally, the default template for the vendor is applied to the document if a template exists for that specific vendor. Since the identification fields in the template also runs through VAT number, it is actually possible to leave out the ID template on the document category. The advantage of the ID template is that it quickly finds the right vendor, as it only searches for a VAT number. Using identification fields, significantly more data is processed. Continia therefore recommends to keep and use the ID template in the document category purchase. When looking a bit more at the document category, we find the fields number of source table filters, and number of excluded sources. With these two fields, it is possible to control which vendors that can be selected as source ID. Table filters opens the possibility to easily restrict both automatic and manual selection of vendors. An example could be a filter that ensures that only vendors belonging to a specific vendor posting group can be selected. In this case, the filter on the field vendor posting group is set to domestic. The second field, source exclusion, is a blacklist, a list of vendors that under no circumstances should be considered a valid source ID. Here you simply enter the number of the vendor to be excluded from the document category, like vendor number 10,000, London Postmaster. Please note that both filters and exclusions are set on the document category, affects how the ID template and identification fields locates the source ID. The function that via search text chooses the source ID will not be affected by these settings, as the search text are created on the template. For both the ID template and identification fields, the identification process is completed by applying the default configured template for the vendor. With a single click in the field default on the template, it is easily configured which template is to be the default template for the vendor. If all templates are created as default templates for the same vendor, the user is prompted for which template to use when activating recognized fields in the document journal. And remember that the template can be named as desired. Just change the description on the template card. This was a review of how Document Capture determines the source ID of an invoice. Before we move over to the questions, I'll be spending a moment talking about some of the new features in the upcoming version of Document Capture. The next version of Document Capture contains many improvements and great functions. I will briefly highlight 3 new features. When an email is received by the OCR engine, the attached PDF file is automatically read. Should the email contain a document of a different type, let's say a JPEG file, then the mail is marked as read and no data is loaded into Document Capture. In Document Capture 407, emails not containing PDF files will appear in the error list in the role center, providing easy access to both emails without attachments and emails with other attachments than PDF. In the upcoming version of Document Capture, there are also several improvements to the matching functionality of purchase order and receipts. One of them concerns the automatic matching comments generated by Document Capture. When an invoice is matched with a purchase order or receipt, a short comment is displayed informing whether the matching was carried out automatically or manually. These comments will be significantly improved so that the message clearly states which purchase orders and receipts are matched, including a description of any amount differences. There's also a nice improvement to the web portal for Document Capture 407. When an invoice is sent for approval, the approver might want to change the invoice lines. In the current version, this change has to be made manually by entering all the necessary information for the desired invoice lines. In Document Capture 407, the web approver selects a predefined accounting code that could contain a breakdown of the purchase between different accounts and damage. This saves time and also ensures that the lines are properly set up. Remember, upgrading document capture is always easily and quickly implemented. So, what have we been through today? First, we examined how the search text in the template affects the selection of a source ID. Then we looked at the ID template function. We also got an insight of setting up the identification fields on the document category. Finally, we looked at the source table filters and the exclusion list for the document category, and also how to mark the template as a default template. Remember that an adjusted edition of Code Unit 6085576 for Document Capture 406 is available via the partner portal. And finally, we took a brief look at some of the new features in version 407.